Doug Morris. Okay. Now, this is where this is really important. In the 2000s, the top 5 rap record labels, okay, 4 of the top 5, so only P. Diddy of the 5 top record label owners did not in some way answer to this man. Where is he? Doug Morris, okay? Here is Doug Morris. As you can see, an extremely powerful power broker in the music industry. So when I saw, okay, by doing this exercise, when I saw that Doug Morris was so powerful, okay, I mean, in the world of rap, Doug Morris could make or break any act. He could make or break any record label. He could make or break any career. He could make or break anybody, pretty much. Not just in the world of rap, but in the world of music in general, because look how powerful being the CEO of Universal is. So I had a look into his activities, what he did, some of the decisions he made. And it is true that when he was coming up in the 1990s, he wanted to change the focus from rock to rap. Okay. Some of the reasons that he gave for that, I mean, he was saying that, well, rap is a growth market, is how he framed it. And looking at the numbers, you could see, well, yes, as a percentage increase, but in terms of raw sales, if you were Doug Morris in 1995, for example, looking at some of those stats I was just presented you, the rock act was astronomically bigger than the rap acts, okay, in that first 15 years of hip hop. So he must have been looking at it being like, right, there's something about the business model of having the rap record label sitting underneath me, okay, and having a guy like Jay-Z answering into one of my guys, okay. Some of the reasons that I've seen people kind of, people trying to explain Doug Morris's decision making for why this happened. Apparently, the cost of touring with a rock band is quite high. The cost of instruments for the production studio is more. You need session musicians, you need instruments, you need all sorts of equipment. Whereas rap actually is pretty cost effective, right? What usually a rapper is a solo artist, okay? So you don't get these problems of like the band changing and things like that. So you're dealing with a single individual, okay? They don't have any equipment, just a microphone and a bit of production equipment. And usually the actual number of producers, the hit makers, if you want to put it that way, are relatively small. So like Dr. Dre, as we saw, not only is one of the major producers in hip hop, but he's also an executive as well. So he's a money man. Okay. Jay-Z obviously is a rapper. Okay. But he is also a money man. So in the world of rap, you can also combine these two roles. Okay. Of the artist is also the businessman as well.
Shopping online comes with digital threats, so turn on NordVPN.
Well, okay. And this, for whatever reason, is easier for the industry to deal with than the, your stereotypical rock act. Okay. Your Rolling Stones, who could split up, or they could fall out, or they could make demands, and they're expensive, and they can be difficult to work with and all this sort of stuff. Whereas the rapper, in many different ways, is, just easier to manage to some extent. Obviously, saying this in the week that Kanye West has just done what he's done, obviously, even with rappers, there's a certain amount of, risk involved. Clearly, Kanye West now is breaking the mold. Now, I will say that following the decisions of Doug Morris has been quite interesting because, yes, he was generally responsible for massively pushing rap in the 2000s. if you remember that period where Jay-Z was everywhere and it was like he's the king of New York and there was all of that stuff, that was all Doug Morris, okay? But one of the other things that Doug Morris did, is that he started to push really quite heavily, as the boss of Universal. And later now, I think he's gone to Sony. I think, don't quote me on that, but he's at one of the other majors now. So he's still active, this guy. He wanted to push a kind of composite rap R&B sound, okay? So think about Beyonce or think about Rihanna. Think of that sort of stuff. That R&B thing where you have the R&B, the big R&B act, and then like Jay-Z comes in for a verse, okay? That general model was the Doug Morris model, okay? So Doug Morris is not only basically responsible for making rap bigger than rock, he is also responsible for the ubiquity of that Beyonce, Rihanna kind of R&B thing, that urban R&B thing where you get it's Beyonce featuring Jay-Z, say, or whatever, okay? And there's all sorts of weird collaborations, like, it's Rihanna featuring Ghostface Killer, it's kind of this weird thing where the aggressive elements of hip-hop that were to the fore in gangster rap in the 90s are massively toned down to be made friendlier for female audiences, for non-ghetto audiences, for non-hardcore audiences. And instead you get this composite R&B rap thing all wrapped up into one package. And that's the thing that's become ubiquitous. Really, if Doug Morris is responsible for anything, it is that. It is that whole phenomenon of it's like the teenage girl who's into Beyonce, but is kind of also into rap because like she knows Jay-Z through Beyonce, something like this, okay?
ED has affected my confidence. My wife, Sherry, says it doesn't.
That's Doug Morris. And it's top down. I mean, it was a top-down decision really made by him sometime in the late 90s. He decided that this is what was going to happen. And this is all like open information. You can read about this guy in your own time, okay? For better or for worse, this came down to the decisions of just one man, okay? It's not, I mean, not just an organized minority, just the tastes of this one guy, okay? What his motives are, you'll have to ask him, okay? But it really does come down to this. Going forward in the 2010s, and one of the things that we should look towards is I guess you'd call it the Doug Morrisization of hip hop, because now we're not dealing so much with the Notorious B.I.G. We're dealing with people like Drake and Kendrick Lamar, right? These are much less hardcore gangster type personalities, and it's much more R&B kind of sound and focus, and it's kind of friendlier, and it's it's a little bit, I mean, they tried it once with the MC Hammer back in the early 90s, as we saw, right? But that had a backlash from the homies. They didn't like the MC Hammer, okay? There was a backlash against that. Whereas now it's been done in a way where they've kind of got everything, okay? Look at the dominance of Drake here. On the rock side, you've got Adele, I mean, Lady Gaga, Coldplay still, Imagine Dragons, and still just about in the 2010s, the rock, well, I mean, if you can call it Adele rock, I mean, if we're being, rock is being a bit fast and loose here, but generally speaking, you can see the rock side is still slightly outselling the rap side in the 2010s. Then we have, in terms of the live acts, Rolling Stones for the first time not in there, but U2 still going strong, and U2 outsold Drake, look, Kanye West, as you can see. And then moving forward, we can see in the UK, much similar picture, really. The rock is still held out longer in the UK because rap is not only just seen as like, it's just not, it's seen as like American, obviously, okay? So there's been a little bit more of a kind of residual cultural resistance against rap in this country. But still, look, Drake still selling like 1.2 million records here, just not as many as Ed Sheeran or Adele, okay, or Arctic Monkeys even. Yeah, and you can see Coldplay, you know, big live act in the 2010s. And then if we have a look at the intermediaries and the majors, right, Lucian Grange is the man at Universal now because Doug Morris has gone elsewhere. Forget where he's gone now. I think he went to Sony, but the Rob Stringer is mentioned here. And you can see it's much the same situation. So Lil Wayne, right? Lil Wayne actually answers into Birdman at Cash Money, who answers into Universal. So it's still all basically locked up with the majors. I notice Jay-Z has gone to Rock. He's now got a record label called Rock Nation, which is Sony now. So Jay-Z's obviously gone from Sony to Universal. Maybe Doug Morris took Jay-Z with him. You know, I don't know. Kanye West, look, answered into Def Jam at one point, who ultimately answered into Universal. I'm guessing Kanye West is truly independent now. He doesn't have to deal with all of this kind of power structure. And, you know, whether you love Kanye or hate Kanye or whatever your views of him, he has talked about all this stuff quite a lot, right? He is actually on record as talking about some of these power structures that we're talking about here. You can see that chap Lyle Cohen, right, is still around. Clearly, Lyle Cohen loves working at Tier 2 because he's never moved up to be like the big Tier 1 major boss. Maybe he just likes it in and around there in the intermediary. And then just moving forward to present day, last 5 years, you know, they're classing Taylor Swift as a rock act, which is going to have some people tearing their eyes out. But you can see Coldplay, Imagine Dragons, you know, and the big rap acts now. I mean, think about how kind of chart friendly somebody like Drake or Kendrick Lamar is compared to Wu-Tang back in the day, as one example, right? Or, you know, pick any of those 90s acts. And clearly they're less hardcore, right? They've been Doug Morrisized, if you want to put it that way. All right. UK scene, much the same. And as you can see, the UK rap live revenue is coming up now. All right. Yeah. But the rock sales are still pretty strong here compared to the rap. And then if we have a look in terms of the majors, it's still Universal, Warner, Sony. Ultimately, everybody answers into one of the majors there, and it's much the same. Okay. So, what is the bottom line of this video? The bottom line is, due to the structure of corporate music in current year, the actions of individuals like Doug Morris can have very, very, very wide sweeping consequences. Okay.
Does your internet bill keep getting higher? That's because promo pricing is full of surprises. At Google Fi,
it is not actually true that good rock music is no longer made. Okay. A lot of people were saying, well, you know, rock fell off, or rock hasn't been good since the mid-90s or whatnot. That is not actually true. There have been tons of really very clever, great kind of rock music made since 1995 as one example. Okay. But it is not given priority by the major. The majors have decided, following the model set by Doug Morris, and clearly the other majors started copying after he made that decision, that they're going to go with this model of the R&B singer, right, with the featured rap star, and that this is going to be like their model. Okay, this is like the soundtrack to the regime in current year. Okay, so yeah, I really don't think, and what is the evidence that it's not organic? Okay, the evidence that it's not organic and that it is top down, I would suggest, is shown by the persistence of the live revenue.